With the truth, the facts, we lay it down flat. With the melanated empire, never hold back. Put the facts in the blacks and make them white.
Glory to Word, Sound and Power. Hear the immortal I, Ned Bircher, Lord of the Worlds. I was trying to devise the most effective way to clarify some issues that need clarifying within the Rastafari community. And it relates to the fundamental concepts of the movement Rastafari as cultivated out of Jamaica. To comprehend such things, we need to go to the bedroot of Rastafari. Leonard P. Howell, who established Pinnacle, and Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who established UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association. It's out of these two individuals in particular that the Rastafari movement evolved into the dreadlock Rastafari tradition. My personal contention is that the conceptualization of the Nyabingi, which is the foundation of the Rastafari dreadlock movement, was in itself afflicted by Jamaican cultural habits. Which need at this time to be separated from the essence of Rastafari as a movement in order to formulate any practical, sustainable structure for the future. Now, Ras Bonajis, the Sons of Thunder, Bongo Watto, must be credited as the most vocal individual within the Nyabingi order, and the individual who, to the best of my knowledge, traveled throughout the Western world establishing this order called Nyabingi, or should I say proclaiming Nyabingi to the world. Within this proclamation of Nyabingi to the world, the central figure of the movement, Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, is portrayed as the Almighty God, the supreme being of humanity. Along with this is that the acceptance that Haile Selassie is the supreme being, is the Almighty God, is the first step towards spiritual liberation and being able to structure a realistic form of existence, particularly as an African. It was Bongowato Rasbonajis who conceptualized the system of prayer practiced by the Nyabingi. He conceptualized the altar, the 24 pillars, the 12 pillars, the chants, the seal, the opening psalms, the sealing psalms, along with man like Brother Arthur and Brother Brother Arthur. But there's a contradiction here in itself, in that although Bonajis, Brother Arthur, and the ancient Nyabingi elders proclaim Haile Selassie as the supreme being, they burn politics. They refuse to devise, structure, or formulate any political structure or system by which to govern themselves and African people. Their argument being that once a one is righteous, everything falls into place. As again I say, it's a contradiction, because Haile Selassie, the man who Rastafari praised and proclaimed as the Almighty, after the Italian invasion in the early 1930s, which forced him to flee to England for 5 years, because Ethiopia did not have the capacity militarily to repel the Italian invasion by themselves. And the king actually took refuge in England to preserve his life as the representative of the Ethiopian monarchy during the Italian 5-year occupation of Ethiopia. On returning to Ethiopia in the early 1940s, one of the first priorities, because on returning to Ethiopia, Haile Selassie did not return as emperor. He returned as Mr. Tafari, as a citizen, under an agreement with the British monarchy that he be allowed to return to Ethiopia and continue administrating Ethiopian government under custodianship of the British Military Admiralty High Command stationed in Ethiopia. It took, I think, more than 2 years before Rastafari, as he was reduced to by this agreement and contract and treaty. It took 2 years for Rastafari to regain his status as Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia. After which, he focused a significant amount of Ethiopian resources on military strength, on empowering the military, on accessing arms and ammunition, because he realized that righteousness did not protect the nation against the attack of the Italians, and that he had to flee because he did not have the military might to defend himself. Now, this Haile Selassie presided over a political state. He was a political figure. He was not really a high priest. I mean, okay, he was the head of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, but in actual reality, Haile Selassie played no real significant role in the daily administration of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church or its priesthood. The only significant role Haile Selassie played in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was immediately after being coronated as Emperor of Ethiopia in 1930, he decreed that all future abunas of the Orthodox Church must be consecrated in Ethiopia, on Ethiopia soil. That no more Ethiopians will be allowed to go to Egypt nor Damascus in Syria to be consecrated and sent back to Ethiopia as their abuna. I don't think most people understand what I just said, especially the dreadlock Rastafari community. The honest role Haile Selassie played significantly in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church administration was to dictating that it regains independence from external influence in Egypt and Damascus, both countries which were under the influence of the French. Other than that, Haile Selassie daily efforts were political and economical structuring of Ethiopia as a nation. Throughout his years as a minister within his own government, he always held the portfolio of Minister of Education because he saw education as the most important, or shall I say, he saw access to knowledge as the most important key for human advancement. Along with that, he held the position of Minister of Finance because he realized that without prudent management of our resources, we will find ourselves dependent and suffering. Therefore, when Bonagis, and I must add in that both Bonagis and the Nyabingi and the Bobo Shanti originated from the said place. They came out a movement called the Youth Black Faith in Jamaica, in the 40s, late 40s. And this was a direct splinter of Garveyism, of black nationalism, of black empowerment, of African liberation. After Haile Selassie visit on his tour of the world, of the Western world and a few Caribbean countries in 1966, a splinter came about where the Youth Black Faith splinter off to become Nyabingi, headed by, structured by Bonagis, and Bobo Shanti, structured by Prince Emmanuel. Now both of these individuals were Congo black Jamaican man, because at that time no brown skinned man, no red skinned man could have any power within the Youth Black Faith, and by extension the Nyabingi and Bobo Shanti movements. Why this brief history is important is the fact that Nyabingi and the major founder of the Nyabingi tradition, Ras Bonagis, the Sons of Thunder, evolved out of the black nationalist Marcus Garvey movement. Garvey, just like Haile Selassie, was a politician. He was struggling for political power. He was an economist, an entrepreneur, a manager of business. He actually created the most powerful African business enterprise ever created, if you're going to base it on number. Close to 40 million black individuals made up the United Negro Improvement Association, and by their self-help, by their reparations from themselves, they were able to establish a shipping line, the Black Star Liner, newspapers, bookstores, coffee shops, newspaper stands, many other different investments that is not really spoken of of the United Negro Improvement Association. They invested in real estate. They brought land. They brought properties. Now, these Garvey and Haile Selassie are the individuals that Nyabingi claims that they are actually representing. Yet, I elders burn politics. Now, to understand this contradiction, we have to understand Jamaican culture. And that's why I said from the start, we need to separate Jamaican culture from Rastafari, from Nyabingi. It have caused a serious stagnation in the movement's development, economically and politically. And any movement that does not have a political and economical structure cannot sustain itself. It can't be sustained by God or by magic or by priests. Therefore, this issue of politics and economics is central to the survival of what is called the Rastafari movement. Now, as I said, we need to go into Jamaican culture to understand this hypocrisy or this conflict. Jamaica is a place of conflict. Without any apologies, Jamaica is a country of conflict. The conflict is cultivated in the homes. And from the home, it extends into the wider community, into the schools, into the institutions, into the workplace. It's this constant need to be better done. And in doing this, you first must destroy, although using the foundation of your forerunner, you must discredit them by claiming that you bring something higher, that you bring something better, that you bring something more important than what was there. I want people to understand clearly what I'm saying. Rastafari have added nothing of substance to African liberation beyond that contributed already by Marcus Messiah Garvey in particular. Yet, the Rastafari, the Nyabingi and the Rastafari movement have exalted themselves above Marcus Garvey because of the dreadlock appearance and the vegetarian diet. So, appearance and eating habits have become more important to African liberation and creating a future for our children than what Marcus Garvey established through the United Negro Improvement Association, a political economical structure representing African people. My beloved brethren Bongo Watu, upright man, a man of honor and integrity. But he did not transcend his individual cultural restrictions. In the latter stages of Bongo Watu's tradition, or in the golden stages of Bongo Watu's tradition, the brethren reached a realization we actually burn God, burn Jah, lightning bolt and thunder, cripple God and Jah and all false conception, which was great. But he was still burning politics. He was still fighting against the political structuring of Rastafari as a movement. And the basic reason is, anytime Rastafari as a movement formulate a political economical structure the whole churchical order have no real more influence. They have no more hold, no more grip to dictate the fate of the younger generation. And this is a disease that have not only have Rastafari, that have a lot of African structures stagnated, including the prostituting institution calling itself the AU, which in the original righteous structure, it was the OAU, Organization of African Unity, which was founded by independent heads of government of Africa, who were thinking clearly within themselves as African nationalists, not as priests, not as spiritual leaders. They were thinking and functioning as African nationalists towards the returning Africa to Africans. OAU therefore was the first and is the only African conceptualized, structure, created and executed entity of a unified Africa under one voice. This was the work of not Haile Selassie as misrepresented by Ionidi Rastafari for the longest time. The establishment of the OAU was the work of the great unifier, Honorable and Righteous Ketima Yefru, the Ethiopian Minister of Foreign Affairs from 1960 to 1963 and beyond. It was this individual who within 3 years, according to the Kabbalah, we move in cycles of 3. Just like the birth of a child, 3 trees make 9. That's why the OAU had 3 vowels, OAU. It's the foundation of the African Kabbalah of political and economical self-empowerment, reparations, self-government, self-representation, self-advancement. Now, we exalt Haile Selassie, yet very few people within Rastafari know of Ketima Yefru. So we are not exalting words, we are exalting the lineage of David, our murderer. David was a blood clot murderer, point blank. His entire administration, like all the Jews, Hebrew people, was by blood, by brute force, commanded by their God, Jabalon or Yota. Now, long before King David, Jerusalem, the Jews, the Hebrews, Palestine, or even this thing called God existed, Ethiopia, by its original name, Oramia, existed. The land of Or, the land of Put, the land of dark man, darkness, the essence of poor creation. Yet, somehow, the Rastafari community have been exalting the middle of history above that of the foundation. So when we are asked to confirm ourselves as a movement and as it relates to Africa and the world towards some kind of proper administration, we are not going in to the Hebrew, to the Jewish history, to the Jewish story. Now this is what have replaced the nationalistic essence of Marcus Garvey, of Leonard P. Howell, of Ketima Yefru. And as I mentioned, Ketima Yefru, and we're speaking of the OAU, Ketima Yefru himself confessed that it was Kwame Nkrumah who when he was studying in foreign, think it was America, in a speech when he was there, opened up his eyes to the necessity for the structuring of a unified Africa. So we must credit Kwame Nkrumah. Therefore, Ketima Yefru had two fathers, Haile Selassie in Ethiopia and Kwame Nkrumah. Now, the priesthood, as Nebingi claims, and in Jamaica they got something called the theocratic government of Haile Selassie, Haitian order of Nebingi. And when they ask any of the elder brethren, where's the Minister of Education? Where's the Minister of Social Development? Where's the Minister of National Security? Where's the Minister of Foreign Affairs? Where's the Minister of Works? They can't show you any, because we have nothing. We have no schools. We have no financial structure, period, where we can actually give loans at lower interest to assist our members or their family in bettering themselves economically. We have no schools where we can actually, within our own time frame and in our own approved method, impart into our children a solid African awareness of themselves, along with the necessary academic subjects to function within this world. We have no lobbying body that can demand that Rastafari individuals who have legal business and property have the right to have a legal firearm to protect themselves and their property. We have no Rastafari legal team that when our rights are violated, our legal teams are like white African dolls in the throats of our enemies to represent our rights. These are the things that Marcus Garvey had. Haile Selassie himself had one of the world's most vicious pit bulls of international arbitrary law to represent Ethiopia in its legal international battle against England and France concerning Aden and parts of Somalia, and France concerning Eritrea. Now, you know, it's this Jamaican culture that I keep saying that have invaded Rastafari and have us in a serious stagnation. This hypocrisy, this thing of claiming power which we don't.